The Moto G was the phone that changed the way we looked at budget phones. The one that proved low cost didn't necessarily have to mean low quality. But hey, that was 4 years back. And in the last 4 years, a lot's changed with the segment and even with Moto itself. This year, for the fourth iteration of the Moto G, we have multiple variants, and today we are going to be looking at the Moto G4 Plus. Given the intense competition in this segment, has the Lenovo-owned Motorola done enough to warrant your attention? Well, let's find out. But before we do, if this is your first time here, or in case you're one of those 20,000 who watched, this video and are wondering what I'm still doing here, I'm gonna be here for a little while more. I don't have internet at the new place. So anyway, my name's Ash, this is C4E Tech, and you're watching my full review of the Moto G4 Plus. Let's get started. Well, the weight's similar, the build's changed quite a bit. For starters, the back's flat, the phone's much slimmer at 7.9mm. It's worth noting that the camera does protrude a bit and the G4 Plus measures 9.2mm there. The speaker's integrated into the earpiece. It's loud enough and the earpiece seems okay. Not the best, but call quality is acceptable. The back's user removable, and while the 3000 mAh battery underneath is sealed, we do get a dedicated microSD slot apart from two SIM slots. Nice. Overall, the predominantly plastic build does feel nice in hand. The grip's great, but it's not the best for single-handed usage. Why, you ask? Well, the G4 Plus has a larger 5.5-inch IPS LCD display now. The resolution's also increased to Full HD, and we have Gorilla Glass 3 on top for protection. This display is sharp, reproduces colors quite naturally, is bright, and offers brilliant viewing angles. That said, it's a tad reflective. Despite that minor niggle, the display is a major improvement over last year's Moto G. Underneath the hood, the G4 Plus is powered by the Snapdragon 617 chip. Now, that's 8 Cortex A53 cores clocked at 1.5 GHz each, coupled with an Adreno 405 GPU clocked at 550 MHz, and either 2 GB of RAM on the 16 GB storage variant, 3 GB of RAM on the 32 GB storage variant, or 4 GB of RAM on the 64 GB variant. Note that the 64 GB variant is not sold in India. Anyway, the 617 is supposed to be an updated and sorta refined 615 chip. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys remember the 615 chip, the one with all the overheating issues. Well, that's supposed to have been resolved over here. The keyword being supposed to have been. Because sadly, the 617 here on the G4 Plus exhibited similar overheating issues. It got quite warm in our gaming review after about 30 minutes of intensive gaming. That was not good, but the really sad part was in one of our camera videos, after about 30 minutes of usage, the phone got extremely hot and unresponsive. The UI started stuttering too. When I mentioned that in the video, there were some who felt 30 minutes of camera usage, continuous usage isn't something that's gonna happen every day. And I do agree, but just to clarify, I wasn't using the camera continuously for 30 minutes. I wasn't shooting video for 30 minutes. In fact, the longest video I shot that day was about 3 minutes. The camera was on for a good part of the 30 minutes with me swapping between the G4 Plus and the ZUK Z1 for shots to compare the cameras. So if intensive gaming or camera usage over 15-20 minutes isn't something, or is something that you don't picture yourself doing, then this should not matter to you. Because barring this, the G4 Plus is a wonderful phone. It has one of the best cameras in the segment. The 16 megapixel rear camera has an aperture of f/2.0, a laser assist for autofocus, and support for face detection autofocus. There's also a dual-tone dual LED flash thrown in for good measure. The images shot with this camera turned out great. There was ample amounts of detail, colors were slightly warm, but the contrast was good. The low light performance was better than many a phone priced much higher. And this camera can also shoot 1080p 30 FPS footage, and the performance was quite good. The detail was average, but the autofocus speeds, the transitions were very smooth, the speeds were great. The audio quality via the microphone was good too. Digital stabilization has been implemented well here, outperforming even some competition with optical image stabilization. The camera UI has received a facelift too. It now includes a full manual mode for photos, not the half-baked version that you see on Samsung phones, but the full-fledged implementation that lets you control everything from shutter speeds to focus to ISO, so that's pretty great. The 5 megapixel front-facing camera uses a wide-angle lens and does a decent job. And anyway guys, if you want to know more about the camera, I have a dedicated camera review for the Moto G4 Plus. I'll leave a link to that in the description. I'll also leave a card somewhere here I guess. So anyway, make sure you check that out. So moving on, the battery life on the G4 Plus has also been good. With my regular kind of usage, it's managed to get me through a day on a single charge on each of the 7 days that I've used this phone as my primary device. My regular usage involves about 30 minutes to an hour of casual gaming, 8-ball pool, Crossy Road and so on, a lot of mails, social media and the push notifications associated with it, a couple of hours of calls, an hour of music via Bluetooth, 30 minutes of YouTube videos, and with this kind of usage, I ended most days with 20 to 30% juice left without having to resort to the power saving mode. And this phone also ships with a turbocharger that helps you top up that battery quite quickly if you so need to. So as far as the user experience goes, the Moto G4 Plus comes with Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow out of the box. As with Moto G phones from years past, this is a close to stock implementation of Google's latest flavor of Android. The G4 Plus feels responsive and fast. There's almost no bloat. The very few changes that's been made to the UI add functionality, like for example the camera UI or the Moto app. Here's where you set up Moto Display that provides you active notifications and Moto Actions that lets you do things like quickly launch the camera by double twisting the phone or chopping twice to turn on the flashlight and so on. This area at the bottom houses a fingerprint scanner. The placement initially came across as a little weird given that the G4 Plus does not have capacitive keys. It probably makes more sense, probably would have made more sense to have put the fingerprint scanner to the back. But whatever annoyances that I initially felt, that kind of immediately went away once I started using the phone because this scanner is top notch. It's an absolute pleasure to use. It's very quick and very accurate. One nice little thing that's been added here is when you're in a full screen app and you hit the fingerprint scanner because, well, you probably think that's the home key. You're used to a phone with a home key. It causes the virtual keys to pop up. Well, it doesn't replace the home key, it is indeed a nice touch. Overall, the user experience on the Moto G4 Plus is good as long as things don't get too intensive. With light usage, the G4 Plus remains cool, its fast apps open up quick with almost no lag. The G4 Plus has a lot going for it. An almost stock Android experience with a promise of quick updates. A good display, decent battery life with turbocharging, an excellent fingerprint scanner, one of the best cameras in the segment. And at 14,999 rupees for the 32 gig variant, it's not too hard on the wallet either. In the cons column though, we have a build that doesn't really stand out. This is subjective. If you like the build, then move on over to the pros column. The lack of maybe USB Type-C and nano coating to protect against water damage. These might be termed as cons, but in my honest opinion, I don't feel they're deal breakers. But what I feel is a deal breaker, well, the subpar chip powering the phone. The 617 just doesn't seem to be cut out for intensive usage, whether it's gaming or camera usage. The overheating and the eventual throttling caused by it hampers the end user experience a lot, unless you're someone whose usage is very light. This really feels like a missed opportunity because with say a Snapdragon 650 chip inside, we've seen that done in a lower price segment. So with a 650 chip inside, this phone would have absolutely killed. It would have been the best to get in this price segment, but sadly that's not the case here. So like I said, unless you are a very light user, I wouldn't recommend the G4 Plus despite all the pros that it brings with it. That's just me. Do you agree? What do you think about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So I guess that's it for this review. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, vote it down if you didn't, and for more videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. And if you do want to pick a G4 Plus up, you can do that from Amazon. I'll leave direct links in the description below. If you do want to support the channel, do consider changing your Amazon and Flipkart bookmarks to ones with our affiliate ID. So thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, this is up. Saf has a message for you.
Yeah, subscribe to C4E Tech. Ah!